Hello, welcome to the show. I'm Jacquelene and you're on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. I'm coming to you live from my office in Melbourne CBD in Collins Street. And I've been talking tarot, specifically the major arcana, over the last couple of weeks. And I'm coming back in today to talk about the next card. So who have I got here? Let me just bring her up and not have her disappear. There we go. This is the High Priestess card. And so you'll notice she's actually in a purple. Sometimes she's depicted in blue. She's actually got a purple cape, but blue dress underneath. And last week as well, I talked about cards missing out of your tarot deck. I'm not sure whether I covered the fact that when you have a deck, it's really good to count how many cards you've got and keep on top of that. And whatever number of cards you had, whether it's an oracle deck or a tarot deck, specifically a tarot deck, you want to make sure that all the cards are still in it when you're reading for people. I don't recommend reading from a tarot deck where you've got cards missing. I recommend taking note of which cards have gone missing and maybe reflect on the meditation of that, as I certainly was reflecting on that last week and making a bit of a joke about a couple of things there. It's a good idea to make sure that you've actually got all your cards in place. And if a tarot deck is missing some cards, just retire it for a while. Don't chuck it out, because when the time is right, quite often you'll find that those particular cards will just reappear. In my case, I've been reading from my lounge room for 2 years during COVID lockdowns in Melbourne, the most locked down city in the world. And so inevitably, I'm sure there are cards somewhere in the couch that I can't get to. And I'm sure that when we remove that couch, which is not going to be that far from now, we're going to find those cards somewhere in there or in the shelving system behind it. So it's just a good idea to, keep a track of those sorts of things, take a meditation on it. Just pull out another deck that you're using that has all of its cards. Sometimes it's good, if you really like a deck, to buy a number of copies of it. And once again, you can be exchanging cards in and out. You can have a replacement card sitting there, from the other deck, or, vice versa, retire this deck, use the other copy until you find the bits that are missing. So one of my copies of the particular deck I showed you last week, where it was missing certain cards, I've actually got a copy of that's like 20 years old, and I still use it. Some people will refresh their cards, and other people just keep using it and using it and using it. And with some readers, I know they'll use a certain deck for a certain amount of time, and then they'll actually gift that deck away to clients, or for people who can't afford a deck of cards, they'll actually go and post it out. And that's a nice thing to do. Some people feel comfortable doing that, some people don't. As a reader, it's really about listening and tuning into what is actually right for you. So coming into listening into your own intuition about how to manage things, once again, we're back in that High Priestess card. So you'll see she's got a book open there. We've got the symbol of the moon above her, and we've got the crescent moon just below her as well, over there. So the moon's actually very important in that High Priestess card. If we think of the moon, we're thinking of how, you look at full moons and you see the emergency department in hospitals, emergency services, police are far busier on full moon times. And, this can be accidents. It can be people getting very emotional, or having a lot of arguments and things getting out of hand. Some people can sort of have episodes during full moons. With very intuitive people, you can find that you have an incredible burst of writing or creativity, or artistry during a full moon. I know that one time my eldest son was asking me if I could write song lyrics for his band, and actually wrote 10 different songs in one night. First time I'd ever tried writing songs, and here it was. And I thought, in my head, I'm hearing, a really nice acoustic version, and I'm like, yeah, this is really good. And but he had a screamo band. Look, why not? And he thought it was really great for screamo. So that's how they used it. But so that's how we take the message in, isn't it? So we see the cross on her dress, So we've got the equal-sided cross. So it's sort of 2 directions. So in the High Priestess, it's literally number 2. But we see the 2 directions in that. Now, that also equates to 4 because there's 4 sides to the cross. But you'll notice that the cross here is actually equal-sided. So it's not, the really big downward one and the short sides. It's actually they're equal. And that's actually kind of interesting in the High Priestess because we have in the High Priestess, it's always about 2. So you've also got the 2 pillars. So you've got the light pillar and then you've got the dark pillar there. So it's sort of, it's a yes-no kind of energy when we're looking at intuition as well. It's like, does this feel right? Does it feel wrong? Do I need to sit quietly in my patience and space to really think about that? Also, the symbol of the camel comes into the High Priestess card because the Kabbalah letter actually is Gimel. And that is actually about camel and the 2 humps of the camel. And sort of when we see the crescent moon, usually above the High Priestess in the High Priestess card. So here's a black and white other version. Whoop, go to the right side of the screen. There we are. Oh, there she is. So you see above her head, you've got the moon, but then you've got these, well, they look like horns, don't they? But really it's a shape of the valley between the 2 humps of the camel's back. So you've sort of got this real, shape going like that. So it's sort of like if you think of the meeting of minds or the meeting of 2 minds, there can be the question of peace or conflict in 2. If we think astrologically of 2, we're dealing with conjunctions and oppositions. So conjunctions are like, it's really cool. Yeah, we're right together here. Sometimes too much, could be a bit combust. Or if it's oppositions like, joint feature, this is sort of, not necessarily going so well. Or it could be pulling you from one side to the other, like, oh, do I go this way or this way? So, you see in the High Priestess card also the robe sort of, there's kind of a link between the High Priestess card and it goes through to the Empress card of a link of water, the theme of water, and moon relates to the element of water. And we think of how the moon affects the tides in the oceans. And of course, humans are 70% water thereabouts. So of course, we can be affected by really big changes in how the moon is. But the theme of water runs through the back of the High Priestess card and into the Empress card. So there's sort of a link between the High Priestess is kind of like the maiden, and then the Empress is very much the mother symbol. And we're dealing with all of the maiden kind of goddesses in the High Priestess card. We're also dealing with, the High Priestess itself. And some people go and talk about Eve before she got with Adam. Well, Adam's first wife's actually Lilith. And people have demonized Lilith. But she was actually a High Priestess too. And, there's a lot of feminine power, obviously, in this card, and it's about that inner, quieter voice, not the big, it's like this. So, there's sort of the need to have patience. And you'll notice with the book as well, it's sort of like, open to knowledge, open to studying, open to looking into things in a much deeper manner. And all these sorts of things are very important when you're looking at developing psychically or, even looking at relationships. It's like, well, do I go this way or that way? And sort of, okay, but what does it feel in your gut instinct and all these sorts of things as to how you should deal with that? So we're dealing with partnership as well. So when we're getting the, the 2 of wands, of cups, of swords, of pentacles, there's the connection of partnership and maybe weighing up and balancing the partnership. So, this can bring change. In the case of pentacles, this could be, do I take on this partnership or not? And, certain elements, we can be dealing with love there, of course, as well. So you sort of look at all the elements of partnership is not necessarily relationship. It could be a business partnership. It could be your colleagues at work and how that's going. And also when we're dealing with a choice between harmony and conflict, quite often this comes into family issues where, Bob and Mary are not getting along and which side of the 2 sides are you going to choose to be on? And I would thoroughly recommend being on your own side. Stepping right outside of that. And the High Priestess, once again, step aside, feel into this, take the time, rather than just, here we go. Because in that moment of very quick movement, action, and not much thought and contemplation, which the High Priestess is urging us to do, that contemplation, we can sometimes sit back later and second guess ourselves. There's that too as well. was that the right choice, or should I have done this instead? And that's where people go over the past and try and relive it. And if I had done this, what would have happened? And, with people who second guess themselves a lot, it's usually good to actually write down all the reasons why you made whichever choice it is. And even, here was the issue, here's all the ideas I came up with, here's the ones I shortlisted, this is why I shortlisted them, and this is why I chose that one in the end. And I meditated, and this is what happened, but also logically, this is what happened. And then we go forward into that, so that later, if you're second guessing yourself, you can sort of sit there and just read through your work notes and go, right decision. Particularly if it's over a person in a relationship energy and you just weren't sure, that could actually be a lot of fun to do, and then you've got it. So that's just a start of some contemplations on the High Priestess. I hope you have a great week. I'll catch you next time. Lots of love. Bye.